Hi, it's Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're an arts organisation led by locally based disabled artists in the main Paralympic host borough of Newham. We're here as we are 3 times a week to bring you chat, news of disability arts, what we're doing, what's happening locally, nationally, and internationally. And because it's Wednesday, quite a bit more as well. So, coming up, we've got poetry, we've got the Clockwork Paralympics, we've got sport, gaming, and lots of news about the Unlimited Festival at the South Bank Centre. I'm Ju Gosling, Artistic Director of Together 2012. With me, as she's been locked in since last March, is our chair, the artist Julie Newman. I'll give you a bit of audio description of us in a minute, but before that, we're going to go over to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa, all the way to the West Midlands for some introductions and audio description from our co hosts.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Wednesday. So, here we are in Sutton Coldfield, and I believe it is either raining, snowing, or sleeting everywhere. So, at least we can all have some of the same sympathies. So, yeah, here we are in Sutton Coldfield. I am Robin Surgener. I'm Business Director at Together 2012 and co host of Together Unlocked. I am sat in our studio space in front of our lovely warming velvet curtains behind us. Um, I have silvery grey white hair. I am white skinned, pale skinned, I think actually. I have no rimmed
You
black.
three are getting paler and paler as the months go on, and none of us
Yes,
see sunshine.
we do need some sunshine. Sorry. I have no rimmed black armed glasses, blue eyes. Today I am wearing a black round necked t shirt with well, it's a bit of a complicated picture on the front. It's a t-shirt for the band The Cure, and a gig they played at the Albert Hall. Gosh, I don't know, 10 years ago probably, and it was called Reflections. But basically, in white on black, it says the word Reflections um, down the t-shirt, and then half of Robert Smith's face attached to it.
Hi, I'm
Stunning.
Hi, I'm Josh Surgeon. I'm one of the other hosts of Together Unlocked. I am a PhD student most of the time, and I'm trying to catch up on being a PhD student as well. It is blonde, but at the moment it's a kind of indescript colour that's mixes blonde, ginger, and brown, I think. Um, but we'll blame that on the lighting and not on the shampoo. And today I'm wearing it's a blue. The main body of it is a blue sweatshirt, and it has a red stripe uh, that goes kind of right across the arms and chest, a blue stripe on the arms, and then a big white star in the middle.
I have to say, it's a very striking top. Where does it come from?
Um, I think it's Marvel merchandise. It's from a
I
company
think this is
online.
why I find it striking.
Yeah, I think it's
Comic
from a company
one.
online that does lots of kind of band T-shirts and pop culture um items of clothing and accessories. So it's a Captain America kind of jacket. He was a superhero.
We're not all nerds on this show, but
Yeah,
Josh
we
and
are.
I certainly are. So I'm Ju Gosling, also known as the artist Ju90. So there you go. I've got a short, tenured red, self-styled Corona crop. I've got pale olive skin, green eyes behind black plastic framed glasses. I've got black wrist braces, silver coloured jewellery. And today I have a sort of, can lavender be blue? A lavender blue woolly cardigan with a pattern of pale and brighter pink diamonds on it. Curtain.
Harlequin.
Yes, thank you. I got it secondhand on eBay, so I've no idea what it was sold as originally. Behind us, we have silver grey velvet curtains, and you can see part of our Together 2012 graffiti banner. We created that back in, I think, 2014 as part of our Summer Together program in the days when that didn't take place online. And we created that with an organisation called Graffiti Life. So there's images of all the different activities we cover in the arts, from street art, carnival art, photography, filmmaking, live music, drama, dance, and much, much more. Today, we're going to focus on poetry, so more about that later. We will also later be competing to see which teddy bear is going to have the right to wear a gold medal for the next week in terms of winning the Clockwork Paralympics. So finally, in my audio description, behind us, there is Anna Bear, who is a bear dressed up in dance costume. And the reason I chose Anna from my rather large collection of teddies is because Unlimited are particularly promoting dance performances today on social media. So Anna's come out to support the Unlimited dance performances, and we'll be telling you more about those later. But finally, over to our boss, the chair, Julie Newman. Who are you? What do you look like?
I'm Julie Newman, in fact, the same. Coincidentally, is that cashmere? It feels very, very warm and nice.
I think it probably is. That's probably why I got it secondhand.
It's very nice. I'm today looking. There's an advert on the television with Robert De Niro, looking like a trendy upmarket version of himself for a car. I'm looking at myself in the monitor, and I cannot help but see a resemblance.
Oh, I hadn't thought it until you said it, and now all I can think of is that.
Which is so great, because they were being so rude before the show started.
It's today I'm wearing a black woolen hat with a sparkly front bit of it, which is a pattern unrecognizable to myself. It's over my gold and silver locks, ever growing. I have dark rimmed glasses. I'm wearing a checked shirt, black and white checked shirt, actually quite small checks, rather splendid, very nice, very comfortable. And that's over a grey and white t-shirt. And I'm holding a microphone with a yellow bobble on the end.
Oh, yes, and my microphone end is red. So if you're wondering what that strange red floating object is that you can't see very well, not because you're visually impaired even, but because your signal is so poor. Yes, it's not my mouth. I don't wear lipstick. This is the microphone.
Well, yeah, and we just have standard black.
Yeah, we're boring in the West Midlands.
Well, one of the things that we've certainly need to replace is we did used to have coloured microphone cables, and that was incredibly useful in untangling the cables. So I don't know how you can manage with mics you can hardly see and cables that are the same, but these, of course, are just covers. Yes, I mean, interestingly, for some at least, in the days when we had our live music club, we bought a load of these microphone covers very cheaply indeed, because of course it does help anyway with infection control. And I think going forward, when we have live music events again, it's going to be often the case that people are going to want to bring their own microphone, but very certainly having your own microphone cover is going to be critical. We would, like I say, it was already standard practice for us. We used to do a lot of infection control embedded in order to make it safer, for example, for young people with cystic fibrosis to come. But I think music industry kind of generally, you'll see a lot more kind of colourful covers, because then you can tell by the colour which is your cover as well. So these are actually, I ordered a load for my studio as well. But yes, colourful mics. I'm all for colourful mics. But moving on a Wednesday morning, we have our Together Pop-Up Poetry Club, led by the international artist Alison Marchant, who works part-time as our club's programme leader, and facilitated by Noel Guinan, who's our engagement support worker. And what happens is Noel phones up shortly after 10 o'clock, puts everybody onto a group call, and then at 10:30 we start again, just as we used to in a physical venue, with a cup of tea and a biscuit. The only difference is you have to provide your own and share poems that people have written or people have found. Then We end the call while people can write their own poem on that day's theme, and then we come back and people read them to each other. We also occasionally do breathing exercises, voice exercises. So, how did this morning go?
It was great. We always start the session off with those exercises, actually, Ju. Alison leads us in that. It's really nice. We had a session last week, and this is the second one this year. So it's really nice to have contact with each other again. And I think for some people who have no access to the internet or that sort of technology, it's really important. One of the lovely things about the group is that as we start the session, as Alison formally starts it, there's a wonderful sort of hello, 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 and everybody's greeting each other, and it's extraordinarily friendly, and it stays that way all the way through. I've never been in a session where that hasn't been the case, even when we're criticizing each other's poetry that we've written ourselves or feeding back in a positive way. It is always positive.
Good. So, what was today's theme?
Today's theme was winter. I'll just say it now because I'll forget. But next week's theme is my favorite color. But today's theme was winter. So the first half of the session was some of the poems were poems that people had written themselves. Some were ones that they'd found and read. And some of the links actually towards winter were quite lateral, but quite interesting, really quite challenging.
So, I'm going to ask you, would you give us your poem on winter first?
I'd love to, if I can find
If
it.
it hasn't
If it
disappeared from the
hasn't
magic slate
disappeared,
again.
here we go. It's not winter first, it's winter, but I'm going first. Winter. The sun is low. Very little light shines through empty windows, the holiday garlands now gone, leaving no space for shadows. This can only be winter time. A glimmer of hope shines as the day grows longer and the sun shines stronger. The dogs lie huddled in their beds, not anxious to run in the dark frozen yard. The cats sit looking through the windows darkly, hoping for the flash of wings or the flick of a branch blown by the wind. No creatures stir outside as the cold light harshly shows the shape of things not there. But soon, soon will the earth start to warm, life coming back as shoots start to form. Soon, soon will the days lengthen further, the birds return and the sunshine longer. Until then, we all huddle down, waiting for spring to lighten our days. The cold reminds us that time moves on and seasons change.
Oh, thank you, Julie. And the dogs and the frost didn't not wanting a frosty walk reminded me that this week's virtual nature watch with assistance dog Merlot, when we send one of our assistance dogs out with a camera to show us the walk that we can't have ourselves, is Merlot's frosty walk. That's coming up around 3:30. Josh, I think you have Blake Jarrett Gibbons' poem.
Yes, I do. This is by Blake. Cold outside, warm inside. Dog needs to go out, layer up. Step outside, your breath displays as steam in the cold air. Walking along, the dog's feet tapping on the pavement, that wind oh so cold. The pavement in the park not covered in salt or silt, so black ice in patches, and the greenery is like a swamp. So please don't go too far on. I don't want to have to shower you again tonight. Let me check if I'm even right with being late at night. Seems so dark each day. Means less walking on sunshine and more dancing in moonlight. The dog, once a golden retriever, now half golden retriever, half mud, is panting away, so much hot air coming out of him, and only just about see his outline from the mud. Could be forgiven, wondering if he is a steam train. It's cold. It's nice and refreshing being here late, no one getting in the way. Come on, home time. Hopefully the mud will dry off mostly by the time we get home. Back onto the street, back onto street-lit pavements. There goes the number 6 bus down toward Willesden Bus Garage. Since it's See it bounce over the speed humps and see the grit on the road being flicked aside by the tyres. Soon it will turn right and will disappear behind the building. Another 6 comes up, going on the long drive through to Aldwych. Long journey ahead for that driver. Back down the road, and panting dog to one side, still stopping at the lampposts before leaving a message for the next dog. Dog, are you taking the piss? I want to go home. Even layered up, I'm starting to feel that wind and the fog is getting lower and lower. It'll be like a curtain soon. This is how it quickly became. More walking, nearly home. Lots of mud fallen off. Wow, my dog is looking more golden retrieverish again. In we get, glasses steam up. Time to clean the dog and then time to get changed and put the kettle on. Now it's not me steaming, it's the kettle. It might be a time of year many don't like. Winter. The coldness, the super bright sun, and then the very dark nights. I do like Mother Nature deserves some rest time too. Winter is her chill out time to cool off, so let's respect that and let those locked outside with no homes. Let's give them something. Let's remember those key workers working day and night through the year. Harder times still through the winter. While you sit there drinking your hand, looking outside and thinking, do I go outside? The coldness, the steam of warmth from your breath as you take in Mother Nature's chill. Enjoy it. You watch soon. Half of you be moaning it's too hot now out there. I'm warm again now, and from my tea and my sleep. It's another late winter night. I'm off again for the night winter walk. Who knows what I may see on winter's walk this time.
Oh, that's lovely. I think Blake always is so successful at taking us for a little trip round, and I think for those of us who haven't been out for a wee while, it's a real treat, and he's very generous like that, actually.
He absolutely is. It was so evocative. I also had a message to say the captions hadn't been running on the website. Apologies, anybody who was looking for that. They are there now. So I'm going to put the website address up. It's www.together2012.org.uk. Go to the Together Unlocked TV page now, and you will indeed find the live captions. They're not on the stream, they come up in a box immediately underneath. So I have a poem here from Dawn Barber, and Dawn is one of our longest participants as well as a volunteer, but has no internet access. So I'm really sad that you can't hear your poem being read, Dawn. But this is Winter. It's winter again. We shall not cheer. Cold rain, umbrella out again. Dark comes early. We all have to look after ourselves with the cold. Keep warm. That's the way to do it. Somehow we have to get through it. Times go so quick and winter's around again. We won't give a cheer. We won't give a cheer. Thanks, Dawn. That cheered me up anyway. And I believe you have a poem from Dwayne Bryan, Robin.
I do indeed, and this poem is also titled Winter. It could happen to you, my winter. All my kitten wants to do is purr. My winter, your mother's tongue was English. You lie now in a garden amongst the trees, as the trees blow. In the trees that warm air signs of spring. The trees are starting to show a blossom. That warm air cannot be forgotten. My winter. The sun shines vaguely as though it's half asleep. The sun shines, and you get the feeling. That's quick. My winter. Thanks, Dwayne.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. Thanks to all of the Pop Up Poetry Club. I'm really hopeful that in due course we will actually have some videos of people reading their own work. But thank you, everybody. And thank you, Julie, for continuing to support the group and write weekly. So that theme for next week, yet again, is
my favourite colours.
my favorite color or my favorite colors. We'll be popping these poems up on our highlights and links page. You can find that on the website www.together2012.org.uk. Go to the Together Unlocked TV page and click on the pull down menu. There's also a link from that main page that will have all of the videos that we've shown today and links to anything we've talked about and copies of the poem. And we'll pop up a reminder about next week's theme as well. If you would like to join the Pop Up Poetry Club, you don't have to live in East London. We target this group at disabled people, but that's entirely self-defined. However, and we certainly don't ask for medical or any other kind of evidence. So email us. The email is at the bottom of this page at the moment, info@together2012.org.uk. We'll put Noel Guinan in touch with you and we'll take it from there. But anyway, you don't have to join in the Wednesday Club to send us your poems. And indeed, your poems don't have to be on the topic. We would just love to hear your poems or see your poetry videos. So keep those poems coming. Is there any poetry happening at the Unlimited Festival? I know we've all been poring over the programme, getting very excited about what's coming up. I'm not sure that there is.
I'm not convinced. I did have a look, but there wasn't obviously anything that jumped out at me.
I guess, I mean, Josh is going to talk about one of the items. So maybe, do that now because I think there is a poetry link within that.
Is there?
Yeah, just be careful to talk into your mics, guys.
Sorry.
So yeah, the event that Dad's talking about is tomorrow, and it's called Here Not Here, or it kind of launches tomorrow and then's available to watch through to the 17th, which is a film, a hip hop film, that uses British Sign Language, Crump Street dance, football, and visual vernacular. And it's described on the website as a choreographed and poetic form of sign language. I know we were talking about it a little bit before the show. Dad, you know a little bit more. You have kind of some experience, or at least have seen it. I don't know if you want to kind of jump in with more detail of what it is.
We can't see it yet, and I think it's actually really worth stopping at this point and explaining to viewers the way the festival works is at a particular time the video goes live, it comes out as a broadcast. So there are live events taking place and quite a number of interactive things that you can do. But with a lot of the program, if it says it will first be broadcast at 6 o'clock, you can't watch the video until 6 o'clock, but after that you can watch it on demand. So although these videos will only be available till Sunday, once an event's been launched you can watch it again. So I think we both had a look at 111 because John Z D, who wrote it, I've always been a big fan of. John Z's been an associate artist of at Sadler's Wells for I think a very long time. I remember doing a workshop with him years ago, but we all had to rush off at the end because the Stratford Circus basement flooded. Which is just another reason that we don't support the council closing Stratford Circus as an arts centre and setting it up as a state-of-the-art youth training facility, because it wasn't state-of-the-art 20 years ago, and it certainly isn't state-of-the-art now. But John Z was fantastic, really fantastic guy. And he's almost the sort of godfather of British hip hop now, isn't he?
I'm not a hip hop person. I don't know enough about it to comment.
I think, Robin, you were very interesting on describing what visual vernacular is for any viewers who don't know.
Yeah, so that's, I think that Josh was alluding to is that so BSL is the kind of mostly recognized sign language, interpretation of English into a format for deaf users. visual
I'll
vernacular.
stop you there because, of course, it isn't an interpretation. British Sign Language has got a completely different grammatical structure and vocabulary and everything else. So that can be a bit, I think that can be a bit of a misapprehension that some people have. There's no more relationship between British Sign Language and English than there is to Japanese. In fact, yeah.
No, I mean, and I think the use of interpreter is at what they're called. So anyway, visual vernacular it's a bit, I would call it, describe it as augmented sign language. It's much more a lot of deaf and hard of hearing poets have used what they call visual vernacular, and it's where certainly performance poets is where they are delivering. The sign for it is, I'm trying to get in camera now, is VV as far as I remember, for visual vernacular, and it's about kind of acting through the poetry as you're doing it. So it's got the sign language. It might also have a voiceover depending on the performance, but things are described. And I was saying earlier, like talking about walking down a road with trees swaying from either side, and it just gives a much more kind of performance, theatrical base to the work. And that's why, in terms of hip hop, I think when I say that, for me, lyricism is just another form of poetry, and then putting it into BSL and visual vernacular, then it's an enhanced version of lyricism.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, I'd heard of visual vernacular, but I couldn't have defined it half as clearly as you, and I'm not even sure I had that clear understanding of it. It's a slight diversion, but one of the issues that often comes up in, shall we say, unfunded events, which a lot of women's events tend to be, is volunteer sign language interpreters who become so much part of the performance that they're taking the spotlight away from the actual performer. And I think that is probably visual vernacular too, where, because and there's that whole kind of a specialism for on-stage live performance interpreters, but I think it does take in a lot of visual vernacular because there's so much more over the top than a standard interpreted performance. But I think hip hop is so poetic anyway, isn't it, that it is going to be really fascinating. I mean, it makes me remember our dear lost friend Lionel M. Macaulay, who was very tragically murdered last September and would have starred in our opening event for the Making History Together festival, because that's what Lionel was, a hip hop poet. And we should say, as well as watching all these new things on the Unlimited Festival, our own Making History Together festival remains online in its entirety. So you are very, very welcome, and I think would very much enjoy watching some of those performances now. Lionel's hip hop poetry is incorporated into the live performance, which was taking place from Sign Dance Collective International, and they were performing from Croatia, weren't they?
They were, and
with footage of Lionel coming from the UK.
Definitely, it was very moving because some of his family tuned in as well during the live event. Just for audio descriptive purposes, I have a tabby with a little red collar on my knee, taking part in the performances.
Yes, as well, we don't advertise it, we just admit it. There are always going to be random screen appearances by anarchic pets, and this is just one of them. If you'd like to know more about any of our pets, there is a page under the main Together Unlocked TV menu on the website that says Animal Hosts. That's got pictures of the 5 rescue cats currently living in my office and studio, and our 2 assistance dogs. There's Merlot, who's coming up, who's one of our animal presenters. We've got cats in West Midlands. We've got cats down in Hastings with our writer in residence, Penny Pepper. So we're never far from a bit of fur making us sneeze or chewing a cable or anything else. So welcome to the show, Dolly. Is there anything else that you would particularly recommend today or tomorrow at Unlimited? Because the way the festival works is there's new material each day up until Sunday.
Yeah, the other thing that we're going to talk about is the event on tomorrow evening. That was I Was Naked, Smelling of Rain, which is the event we talked about a little bit on Monday. around the impact of kind of weather on psyche, which looks quite interesting.
Yes, that's by Aidan Mosby, and he's a very, very interesting artist from the north. I remember us both having difficulty finding the Shape Open a few years ago and sort of wandering in the dark around East London. And those memories have become very precious when you haven't been out for 10 months and counting. And you think, oh, wasn't that lovely wandering around in the cold and the dark? I was with real human beings outside. But he's got a very broad range of work. So it's worth looking Aidan up on the internet and having a look at some of his work that's available on, yeah, different bits of the internet and not just at Unlimited. Anything else?
I think that leads us nicely into watching Merlot outside, actually.
Yes, I think you're probably right. I'll just flag up one last thing on Unlimited, which is if you go through the program carefully, there are a number of opportunities for people in the industry to meet up. I've booked into a very interesting session tomorrow on Thursday afternoon. Yes, tomorrow afternoon, where we'll be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on disabled musicians. So do look for those things as well. If you're an organisation, you can get further information from the Unlimited Allies programme. But yes, I think next we should go to Merlot. Merlot is Stera Plurger's assistant's dog. Stera is one of our arts presenters. They're up in Norfolk shielding. They were originally, I think, for quite a few number of months together in a one-bedroom flat, which they didn't leave, including the dog. So they are now in the opposite to that. They're in a barn in Norfolk in the middle of nowhere. So, Julie, will you do the audio description for this?
Yes, for sure. Oh my goodness, talk about cold pause. We're looking at Merlot's head dancing up and down from the camera angle strapped to his back. There was a lot of green covered in frost, a lot of frost. He's trotting up the path now. To the left is a ploughed field. To the right continues to be, he's turning round. He's confusing me. He's a busy boy. He's actually really having a lovely time. He's checking his people out and he's actually going back behind them. There's something that's caught his attention, I think, at the edge of the ploughed field. They call him forward and forward he goes. At quite a rate of speed, actually. No, he stopped again. There's something definitely in that ploughed field which has his attention, but it is very cold. You can see, oh, he's stopped and he's paused and he's looking around him. There's weeds with frost still on them still. As he's looking through, as he's going past, the grass does look green and the weeds do look green, but they're certainly frosted. It looks as if the path is actually quite hard under paw. He's continuing though. He's having a lovely time. He's trotting forward again at speed, enjoying a nice old run, stretching his legs. Continuing down the path. To the right is a wire fence, and I assume there's another field beyond that also ploughed. He stopped to have a look so that I could see. And he's carrying on again, more or less in a straight line down the path as he continues. He must have very cold paws though, because it does look bitterly cold underneath. As I say, there's still frost on some of the weeds. In the distance, in the mist, is actually the outline of a tree. In a typical winter view, to the right, there's a tree coming up with no leaves, so you can see the skeleton of the tree, and it looks quite atmospheric. This is where the expedition stops. But he, bless his heart, he must have been awfully cold under paw.
I was just so blown away by the sort of the white of the sort of frosted twigs and things and the branches, and then I got a bit distracted thinking, are they weeds or are they just wild flowers? Are they weeds if they're outside and they're wild anyway? But that's just the mad way my brain works. But yeah, we have that video on the website again. If you want to hear Julie's audio description again, then you would need to watch the recording of the show or just fast forward through it, but the video of the walk itself with no interruptions will be up there on the highlights and links page. Has anybody else been for a frosty walk? I mean, we certainly haven't. It's funny, isn't it? This kind of, Boris Johnson appears on his bicycle just up the road, along with a massive kind of posse of security guards, any of whom could have been infectious or indeed just fallen off and needed treatment. And yet none of us even have the right to go out, because I was very taken aback with the whole care package issue when they said you've got a right to go out for exercise for an hour a day. And I thought, I wish somebody would tell adult services it took 4 years to get the right to go out for an hour and a half a week.
Actually, Emily and I did go out for a push on Sunday dusk time, and I made the error of pushing up the hill from our house, and the hill is about half a mile long, and I regretted it about 100 yards up the hill, but persevered because it was nice. It was actually nice to be out in that fresh air.
Well, I think that brings us on to a sort of more sporty feel. I'm delighted to be announcing the first of this year's Clockwork Paralympics, but definitely not the last. Now we're on lockdown 3. Where is your teddy bear? We've introduced Anna Bear.
We have Teddy in a box, who was Joshua's 21st birthday teddy from Emily.
So, can you audio describe that?
Oh yeah, I'm very sorry. It is a silvery grey me to you teddy, with a gold 21st birthday plaque thing tag hanging off his ear. But he's in a box, so his head sticks out the top of the box, and his arms stick out the side, and his feet stick out the bottom of the box, and it says 21 in gold letters with me to you on the opposite leg. Are those?
Well, I think it's a kind of locked down bear. That also seems quite apt. So I'm going to stick this up. Josh, if you do the audio description once I've put this on the screen, I'll let you just describe setting the scene before we start the video.
We need to pick a side, and we'll go. Should we go right side of the screen?
Yeah, right side of the screen.
Right hand side of the screen. So we have our. Oh, we're back to caterpillars this week. We have our 2 caterpillar competitors. Try saying that 5 times fast. Back on the landing in the London office area, and a very colourful bookshelf behind it as well. Nice to see that the books are all in attendance, even if the people can't be. And then hopefully the race will be starting soon. The competitors are finishing their warm-ups, and we are off. So as always, very high octane start with the caterpillars. Looks like Green is going for a little bit of sabotage. He's gone for a pit manoeuvre, but has unfortunately missed and is now veering off towards whatever room is on the side. For some reason, I have kitchen in my head. I don't know why.
Oh, interference going on there. Interference with the Birmingham competitor. That is just not appropriate.
So, whilst we were resoundingly losing and being hammered by the orange caterpillar, the cat is now very intrigued. There is a grey cat, very confused and intrigued by the camera. Whilst we were resoundingly losing, I think there's going to be a flag on the play, protest of crowd interference, that we were about to stage a comeback and we were eaten by a cat. So
all right, London won. Congratulations, London. It's good to, we'll let you have that one. Get some false bravado going for the first month of the year.
Oh, Ju, I think you're still muted. We can't hear you.
Just trying to put the medal on our teddy. So our teddy Anna, who won. So London 2012 won.
We won.
Has got a gold plastic medal. That's the only medal we have in this house. As Julie said memorably last year, I have a studio full of teddy bears and they have a studio full of medals. So you don't see as many teddies, but then they have a massive choice of real medals to put on their bears. And that's why we hand over to you, particularly Josh, to do our sport and gaming report, and I'll ask you to start that now.
Yeah, well, our actual first sporting story comes from your end of the sofa with Julie. So take
Thank
it
you,
away,
Julie.
Julie.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers from last year. The Vendée Globe started in November, at the end of November, and it's around the world, single-handed solo yacht race in boats which are about 60 meters, I think, or feet. I can't distinguish between the two. They're quite big boats, and they've got foils, some of them, and some of them don't. But it's single-handed, it's non-stop, and what happens is that they left France, sailed down to the bottom of the world from where we are. And so they sailed down the side of South America and then turned left, went underneath Cape Horn, sailed over the top of Antarctica towards Australia, and then they went across the South Pacific and are crossing now Cape of Good Hope. No, I did it the wrong way around. The first Cape was the Cape of Good Hope. This one is Cape Horn. And so some of them are actually in the South Atlantic and coming back at speed. The idea is to go around as quickly as possible. And they are all due back at the end of January. So the overall thing will be just after 70 odd days. What's of particular interest to me is that there is a Paralympian who's actually a twice gold medalist who's in the first five. And he's absolutely wonderful. There's been something like 6 who have had to leave because of problems with the boats. One guy sank completely very quickly, and was rescued by his fellow competitors. But to be in the first 5, there are 4 women further behind, but the first 5 are followed by another group at 40 miles behind them, so 80, 90 miles behind the leader itself. It's a phenomenal achievement. I think the rest of the sail back home is going to be slightly fraught with danger. They don't have the same perils that they do in the South Pacific because the winds are different and the currents are different. But this is the time when there's all manner of high, lows, winds coming here, winds going there, cyclone, anticyclone wind effects. If you go onto the Vendée Globe site itself, you can actually track them on a map, on an interactive map. And I'm just really keeping a very close eye out to see how he's going to manage the perils of the South Atlantic.
And are they sending any camera footage back that we can watch on the website?
Yes, they are. There's odd interviews, there's odd photos, etc., all of which are on the Vendée Globe. But if you do a search in whichever search engine you use, and if there's a particular sailor that you're interested in, you can get articles about that sailor themselves.
Yeah, I suppose I was particularly interested in that kind of live streaming footage of the wild wind and the wild waves, which is always so enjoyable when you're sitting back at home. I mean, in the days when I've had much less wild experiences dinghy racing, and it's all been, particularly the ones that have been quite terrifying and not just fun, it's still only when you get back home that you think, oh, that was great. And at the time you're thinking, I'm going to die. But
I think you're absolutely right, because it is perilous. Let's make no bones about it. It is an absolutely perilous voyage to undertake. And this man won his gold medals in the Paralympics in a 2.4 meter boat, where he was sort of well protected, well surrounded, everything was geared towards him. It's a phenomenal task to have been a medalist at all. But to then transition from such a small boat to get to train himself up and to move across to a massive solo yacht race, I just think is phenomenal.
And absolutely. And I think the only thing I would say is that in some ways it doesn't surprise me that he's doing so well, because I think the Yeah, just getting through the week, even without COVID-19, can be such a kind of series of challenges and endurance and, downright misery for a lot of disabled people, that I think when you get into a boat where it's just constantly cold and wet and noisy and moving up and down, perhaps it's not quite so much of a shock to the Paralympians as it is to the others.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully someone that's trying to sail the world by themselves will have practiced being in a boat. Hopefully it's no shock to any of them. But no, I do know what you mean. So
That grind is what I mean, that kind of day in, day out for months, and I have found that with certainly if I've done mixed stuff, that the disabled sailors have actually had a lot more power of endurance.
Yeah.
They really are used to kind of, just really having to push themselves all the time.
So thank you for that, Julie. And I kind of checked the progress this morning. I think they're kind of 81 point something % through, depending on kind of who was where. There's something like 8,000 kilometers left or something. So moving on, we talked about this a little bit before the Christmas break, the Labara Race the World event, which was a kind of international para swimming competition that was all done remotely and virtually, and that the finals would be streamed on the 16th of December. That has now passed for anyone that stopped tracking it in about March. The 16th of December has happened, believe it or not. And I watched the live stream event, and it was really good because they'd taken all of the different races from all the different kind of entrants, synced up the starts, put that together into one video. So there's kind of 6 tiles per race, and then got 2 commentators together on Zoom or something, but they were actually watching the videos for the first time. So you still got that kind of excitement of commentary of live, even though the actual race itself wasn't live and it was filmed in the kind of 2 weeks prior. There was like a window they had to submit their races in. You still kind of got that excitement because the commentators didn't know who was going to win either. So you still got that kind of enjoyment from it. And it was it was good fun. It meant to actually watch some para swimming, for which we hadn't been able to do for a while. And there was prize money involved in it as well. Which certainly for para athletes, that in a year where they couldn't do a lot of competing, that prize money could be really, really important, because it's how they earn money if you're a full-time athlete.
I just think the whole thing is so clever. So just to be clear, what you meant by virtual, because I'm just trying to remember all the details. So they filmed their own race almost to get racing themselves against the clock in their own pool, but with very strict kind of judging and monitoring and so on. Is that? I know that's a bit of a simplistic way of
Yes.
explaining.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. There were specific kind of guidelines, but all of the athletes that were competing would have had access to somewhere that has an electronic timing system. So there's kind of same as there's pads and things. So it all had to be filmed. It was then submitted. Kind of international judges, like sport judges, not like strictly judges, kind of watched it to see if anybody would get disqualified for anything. And I think there was only one disqualification, but it was all done kind of to the rigor of if it was not in real life, a physical kind of everyone was at the same pool event. So yeah, you couldn't just kind of be like, oh yeah, I went at whatever time and just submit it. There had to be video and all kind of evidence that you'd actually legitimately kind of done it. So yeah, it's a really kind of interesting way of doing it, and differences.
I think it's so clever. And again, the thing that it makes me think, I don't know if it will happen, is just the sheer costs of traveling to competitions and so on. As with so many things with COVID, once it shows you an alternative, I could easily see, not necessarily at that level, but at kind of other levels, and maybe people being able to compete and schools competitions and things internationally that could never take place in the because again you just can't afford the transport costs, the accommodation costs, even if they could travel. It also as well, because I know we also talk about gaming here, makes swimming almost more like gaming, doesn't it, where you're competing against somebody from almost like your own home, in this case your own swimming pool, kind of out of time. But it just never would have occurred to me 12 months ago that you could have a swimming race or any other kind of race, because you could do it for other kinds of races, and I dare say they will be.
And I mean, I think, sorry, Josh, just to jump in really quickly, that it for me, it typifies what being an elite athlete is about, which is all about being the best that you can be. And so, so when you are doing a timed event, you are only against yourself. So it really is, you are your own competitor. You don't know how you've done in relation to anybody else until later. And I think actually that's a really, really big driver.
And
Yeah.
a really big, important Paralympic value that is very much part of us as a legacy organisation is being the best we can be. It's not about being somebody else, and it's not about beating somebody else or putting somebody else down. It's being the best that we can be in every aspect. And I think again the challenges of COVID have really encouraged us to be the best we can be in all sorts of ways. So does that take us on to gaming, Josh? Or do we have some more sport first?
Yeah, well, I had a whole heap of sports things, so I'll try and rattle through some of them fairly quickly for time.
Well, we've got nearly 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a couple of things also swimming related. Daniel Diaz, who is a Paralympic Brazilian swimmer and a hugely decorated swimmer, has announced that he's going to retire at the end of the year, or at the end of kind of 2021 after the Paralympics. I mean, if they happen, obviously. But to kind of focus on his other work, he does lots of stuff in terms of like governing sport now that he's started to do. And he runs an institute that he set up in 2014 to kind of support disabled, kind of young disabled kids and find the next Brazilian Paralympic champions. So it's kind of focusing on that, which is really good. But I mean, he's been an absolute mainstay of para swimming for years, and he's kind of really competitive, but also a big kind of supporter of the sport and disability sport. And then the other thing that kind of we'll probably talk about a little bit more next week around the Commonwealth 2022, and kind of long list teams are starting to be put together for that. So Swim England put theirs out, that had a whole heap of para swimmers in it as well. We'll probably talk about that next week for time. The one final sport thing that I wanted to talk about, and it goes back to what you were saying, Ju, around kind of competing and what can happen. In the FA Cup at the weekend, which is a football competition, a team called Marine played a team called Spurs. Now, if anyone doesn't know anything about football, there is 160 or 161 league spaces between those two teams. Spurs are in the Premier League. Marine are very much not. Their captain's a PE teacher. Their midfielder is a plumbing student at the local college, and things like that. I think there's a binman on the team as well. So one, it was kind of a great opportunity for them to play somebody like that. It probably had the biggest in-person attendance because their field has little numbers around it. So if the ball goes over that, so you have to knock on the door to get the ball back.
It's brilliant. It was so
kind
funny.
of people were, actually able to watch from their gardens. It's probably the biggest crowd they've had all year. But also, and they're talking about on the commentary, that actually it was the last opportunity for a lot of those players, Marine players, to do sport for however long. The FA had paid for them to all get their COVID tests and kind of negative tests and things so that they could play in the competition. I mean, they did lose, kind of unsurprisingly. But yeah, it was an interesting thing that actually kind of going out and thinking, this is the last chance I'm going to get to play sport for however many months, because they then lose that kind of elite status. But yeah, it was an interesting kind of aside that they've kind of got pulled up through that to be able to do it. But then moving on, because I am very much aware of the time.
Can I just confirm, was that Tottenham Hotspurs they were playing?
It was Tottenham
Oh,
Hotspurs.
my goodness me.
So yeah, I mean, they play in a kind of 40, 50, 60,000 seater stadium normally, and I think there was probably about 100-seater set of seats at where they were playing. So it was quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important really to stress that the reason elite sports can still take place is just because of the entertainment value on TV for other people. You know, there isn't this sense that participatory sport or smaller teams don't matter. You know, as I understand it, you know, it's purely about if people are at home, you know, the very least they deserve, if at all possible, is to be able to watch elite sports on TV when it's possible to create that. And I guess football is one of the easiest things to do because so much of it is played within the UK. But moving on to gaming, what have you got for us?
So the main thing I was going to talk about on gaming is the ongoing, very competitive Mario Kart competition that we have going on in our house. We got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas. It was mainly a present for Emily, but also for the house. So we've been playing Mario Kart, and one of the good things about Switch is the kind of the multiplayer games you can all play kind of together, like local multiplayer. So there's 4 people can all play kind of in the same room.
And Nintendo really specializes in family-friendly games, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do quite a lot, especially around kind of Mario themed games. So we've been playing Mario Kart predominantly. We've played a little bit of Trivial Pursuit. We've got another game that we're going to be looking at playing, but that's in quarantine at the moment, so we haven't got around to playing that yet. But yeah, we've been playing a lot of Mario Kart, and I mean, we like our racing games. We've talked about it before, but I mean, it's kind of 2 buttons or 3 buttons. You know, it's super simple to play and just really, really good fun. I don't know if you want to talk about your learning, should we say?
I think that it's important to note that suspended PhD students, every time you turn around, they're practicing on the Switch. The Switch is a really, really clever little device which you can play on your telly, but it's also a handheld game, so it's kind of really good. And all of a sudden, Josh, what are you doing? Nothing. Oh yeah, there he is. So yeah, the competitiveness is between me, Tracy, and Emily, and he's just like
I will have you know,
zooming. Anyway,
it was
listen,
mostly Pokemon that I was playing, not Mario
I
Kart.
think importantly though is that it is really, really fun. It's as a family thing. I mean, we had a Wii originally years and years ago when it came out. But there's lots and lots of little games in it. Things like Trivial Pursuits that you can just you play and you answer. You play them as a you're playing them competitively, but they're very, very intuitive, very easy to play, and just great fun.
I was very taken by the Nintendo because regular viewers will know we dipped our toes in and we haven't really got much further than that. But, you know, as in I bought a new game for Christmas, but we haven't played it yet. So we've got a PlayStation 4, one of the sort of more recent ones. The only reason I didn't get the Nintendo was at that time the PlayStation 4 was the only thing that hadn't sold out in the UK. But I was very taken by it because there's just so much more choice than the kind of shoot 'em up kind of variety, isn't there? And the kind of multi-level stuff.
Yeah, and lots of kind of really fun, like you said, kind of family friendly games.
Well, one of the games we've got to try is something called Dreams, which is supposed to be an animation program. So if it works, then next week on Monday, our regular app date feature will be returning. That's really looking at apps, but I think if it's gaming that can be used like an app, we might just bend the rules a little bit. Coming up on Friday, of course, we've got our dressing up to go out to stay in. And we were saying that the other day, weren't we? We'd love to see your pictures of dressing up to go out to stay in at Christmas. I know a lot of people went to town on their virtual Christmases, and yeah, it's never too late to see the photos. Even many churches this year have decided to extend 12th night to Candlemas at the beginning of February and still have their decorations up. We've taken ours down because at some point I did need to dust. But yeah, I think if you'd like to send us pictures of what you got up to over Christmas, or if you're going to dress up to go out to stay in, to go to the Unlimited Festival at the South Bank, don't forget we're going to have links to that and everything else we've talked about on our highlights and links page. You can find that on our website www.together2012.org.uk in the pull down menu under the Together TV Unlocked page. And apologies again for the fact that you weren't able to access those live captions at the start of the show. We will make sure we slap ourselves on the wrist and get it right in future. Also on Friday, we'll be going back to the Unlimited Festival to look at something for the weekend and also flagging up some of the highlights and in particular disability and deaf related highlights of next week's London Short Film Festival. In fact, I might put the London Short Film Festival up as a link today so you can just start looking at it. But for now, it's a goodbye from London.
It's
Goodbye from the West Midlands.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Stay creative, stay well.